And hello, everyone. We are here. I'm Ashley Maltz. We are here with Julie Balderrama, who is a dream life coach, is the way I would describe her. She's going to introduce herself more. We are part of the Austin Wellness Collaborative Corona series, which brings AWC members and allows them to give their presentations and talks on some topic that is helpful for healing, regeneration, restoration, parasympathetic reset. So here goes Julie, and we'll have a listen, and she's got some really cool concepts and techniques to share.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks for doing this too. This is such a gift to the community, and it's very much needed. And I love seeing everybody coming together and offering all of the different tools and skills and expertise that they have. So it's exciting, and thank you for putting it together, because wow, I mean, all the support. And are you putting it on YouTube as well?
Yes. So all the sessions are on our YouTube channel, Austin Wellness Collaborative. Just look for us on YouTube, and there we are.
Amazing. It's so
amazing. Everything from like Pilates to foam rolling to
how to make a salad
how to make a salad, which was amazing. I learned things I really didn't think I would. I mean, I've made many a salad in my life.
You think you know.
I highly recommend that. It brought like a whole different level to salad making, and I really would recommend. So, and then more emotional themes, healing. And tomorrow night, we actually have a shamanic healing session with Anthony Palumba. So that's exciting.
I saw that. I was excited to see
that.
Yeah.
Okay. We need a lot of that right now.
Absolutely. Cool.
All
right. Well, Ashley said I am a life coach and a feminine leadership mentor. And one of the tools that I have in my toolkit is Dreamwork. So I also have energy work, somatic practices, and of course, coaching techniques. And so tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to be working with the quarantine, the pandemic, COVID-19, this whole situation that all of us are in, which we could call a collective dream. So we're going to be working with it as if it is a dream, meaning that we are going to use some of the same questions and techniques that I use when I'm doing dream work with clients. And we do this often. My clients and I do this often when we find ourselves in a situation in waking life where we kind of just can't figure out what's going on. Something just seems like we're not getting something, or we're not seeing something that we feel like we should see. We pull out these techniques and start working with it as if it is a dream. And then if we have time at the end, we're going to play a really fun game called What If Up. And this sort of helps us introduce an advanced technique as well with Dreamwork, where we re-enter the dream and we make a choice of what we want to happen, which is a really wonderful tool to have when you're working with nightmares. And this is kind of, maybe we might describe this as a nightmare right now, right? Like if you were having this dream as you were in sleep, you might wake up and say, wow, I just had the craziest nightmare, right? And we know that this is sort of collective, because how many movies have been made about something like this before it happened? So it's in our collective psyche, you know?
Yeah, I'll say, so on Netflix, I've watched more Netflix than I have in 10 years right through this, but there's Pandemic keeps coming up on our feed, and I'm like, we don't watch movies like that. I don't even know why that's on my feed. You know, it's strange, but
I'm so interested in the number of people that want to watch those kinds of movies right now. That's so interesting to me. I guess, it's just sort of like, I don't know, maybe normalize it a little bit. I'm not sure. It's interesting. It's very
morbid fascination, I think.
Or maybe they want to see what's going to happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to wake up. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is happening.
Yeah. So what I thought we'd do tonight, well, first of all, does anybody have any questions about what I just said? Okay, cool. So what I thought we'd do tonight, and those of you who are watching the replay, you can do this as well, is let's come up with a either you can come up with a small story, something that's happened during this whole quarantine period, during this whole unfolding. Maybe you have like a story where, like we did this with my group a week ago, and there were a couple of people that told us stories about going to the store, what it was like to sort of go to the store in this very surreal sort of like, some people have masks on and gloves on, some people don't, or there were people that were talking about the beginning and what it was like for them at the beginning, where it was sort of like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, it's not that big of a deal, oh, it's a really big deal, and that kind of quickness with which everything happened. So just kind of settle in, and we can even take a few minutes to think about it. Like, is there something that has a story that you can share that strikes you as sort of the epitome of your experience with this? And so I'll share mine, and that'll help you kind of come up with yours. The story that I shared last week was the whole beginning of this, and that sort of deja vu feeling when we started to hear that there was a virus that was happening in China and it was really dangerous. And my thought process of like, oh, here's another one of these, and it's not going to come over here because it never comes over here. And even if it does come over here, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And then, like days later, hearing about Italy and hearing about France, and they've shut these countries down. And then that experience for me of like, oh, maybe this is a little bit bigger deal than I first thought that it would. And then catching those thoughts again of like, I don't know, some kind of, it's like the ocean's a barrier or something like that. It's not gonna make it over here. If it does come over here, it's not gonna be so bad. And then having a conversation with my sister, who's a resident in a hospital in Santa Barbara, and hearing her version of what was going on, and getting for the first time a real clear idea of like, oh, this is going to be big, and it is going to have huge implications. It's going to have huge implications for our medical system, for our financial system, for schools, and then like, again, days later, it all happens so quickly. Days later, things start shutting down. People are out of work. My ex-husband, who's a tour manager, is done. He's off tour. He's got no money coming in, and I mean, that's what he does. He works in the entertainment industry. So me thinking like, well, how's this going to affect, our arrangement with child support and such, and kind of going into that space of fear, and then kind of sitting back and going, wait a second. I've been in the online space for a long time. I know what I'm doing. It's possible that I could start to be the person who helps my ex out instead of it happening the other way around. And I can probably help out other people as well who haven't been in the online space, help them figure out how to get on the online space. So bringing myself through this sort of like panic of everything happening so quickly. So if I were working with that as if it were a dream, there are certain questions that I would start to ask. But as I've told that story, did something come to mind to either of you of a story that you could share as if it is a dream? Okay, go ahead, Ashley.
I'll let Sarah go first.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, a couple things come to mind, but mine was similar in that I had some friends ask me a couple months ago, like, do you think that'll come over here? And I was like, do you think we have to worry about coronavirus? I was like, no, I think we're probably okay. Or I guess I just thought if we did, it'd be like isolated cases. I don't know. It almost didn't seem real. I mean, and I watched the news every night, and, you'd hear all about China, and it's just like, okay, and I just never really had any fear about it. And then, like you said, Italy. And then it really just started like hitting home. And I feel like I was the one out of my friends and family that was like, you guys, this is like major. And I guess it felt like a dream in a way of I was already starting to feel a little panicky, or just realizing the seriousness of it.
Yeah.
And even some of my medical friends were just kind of like, oh, and my parents didn't really, my boyfriend at the time, I broke up with him. That's a whole nother story. that feels like a dream, nightmare / realization, I don't know. But so yeah, and I had to be the one that came to both of my practices and just said, hey, I think I'd really be more comfortable working from home. I think that's what, in my mind, I knew that was coming, and within a few days it did. At
Yeah.
first, they both kind of were like, well, we'll wait till there's like a quarantine. And then like within a few days, like, yeah, and then the other company, A New Era, was like, got a letter from the CEO saying, if you guys want to work from home. And then within a few days, everything was like shut down. So that, and then also I was looking into buying a new car, or like a used car, but newer than what I have. And I went out to my old car one day. I had already had it appraised at CarMax and it wouldn't start. And I just kind of went into a tailspin. It was right before, let's see, I think they'd already shut down the schools and everything, right? So it's all becoming so real. And I really haven't been this panicky since, which is interesting because it's obviously now very real. I think if anything now, I'm very sad about just people losing their jobs and the healthcare workers and death and all that. But anyway, my car wouldn't start. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to get this traded in. Like, I don't put any more money in it. They're going to shut down CarMax in a few days. Like, I need a car. And then I tore my house apart trying to find, I couldn't find my car title. And then I realized it was in the safety, like security box at the bank, which I share with my mom. So I'm like calling my mom, like almost in tears, like, oh my gosh, I can't find my key. I think I need to use yours. I was freaked out to see her, and then you're all like, I can't see my parents. I don't want to get them sick. She came over, like we kind of hugged backwards and like, it just made me sad, like that I wasn't really probably supposed to hug her. And we were like standing far apart on my patio. She's wearing a mask. And then I had to go to the bank, and that kind of freaked me out. And then I had to go spend the day at CarMax after I'd already been home alone and not really out and about, not seeing patients, for like over a week. So then I kind of felt like I broke this like safety barrier that I had formed. Anyway, it was just all, looking back, I was definitely like pretty panicky.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we don't have a reason to kind of feel that way, or I'm sure we kind of go in and out of that, right? But just looking back, it's kind of surreal how all those things were hitting me like,
Yeah.
wow, this is major. This is major.
As you hear yourself tell this story, doesn't it sound a lot like a dream?
Yes, it does. It
Yeah.
just, it was so surreal at the moment. And even when I think back to it, it still seems pretty surreal that, I was like standing here crying, thinking about, okay, my mom's coming over, but I can't really like be with her. And then I've got to go buy a car because they're going to shut it down. And then I'm going to catch coronavirus from the 22-year-old telling me he's still going on dates at CarMax. It's like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, Sarah, do you dream often? Do you have lots of dreams?
I do, but I honestly I don't remember them really. I
Okay.
need to start writing them down because I'll wake up and I'll remember little tidbits, or I'll think, gosh, that felt so real. That was so vivid. But then within a few days, if I tell someone, gosh, I had all these weird dreams, if they're like, what was it? I'm like, I don't really know. Sometimes I might remember little random parts, but
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot of them very
Yeah.
well.
Well, I do have a PDF that I can share, tips to help you remember your dreams.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'll share that with the recording.
Yeah,
But I'm curious if you can maybe just tune in for a second. Do you tend to have dreams where you feel like you know what's going on, but you can't convince other people of what's going on? Has that theme showed up before in your dreams?
Yeah, maybe. Like if I think about, sometimes I can remember waking up feeling uncomfortable, like I was trying to tell somebody something or explain, even like weird stuff, like feeling guilty about something, like trying to explain, oh no, I was trying to get that done before blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
this just kept happening. Or I have feelings kind of like that sometimes when I wake up.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the places that we start is well, it's an adaptation of a game by Robert Moss. Robert Moss is a dream worker and a shaman. He's written so many books, but this game is called Lightning Dreamwork Game, and it's in his book, The Three Only Things. And I've adapted it because because I wanted to.
Yeah.
So the first question that he asks in this Lightning Dreamwork game is, how did you feel in the dream? So let's just take the part with the car, because that seems to be a really beautiful sort of encapsulated story right there. So the part with the car, when you were in that situation, I know you said panicked, were there any other feelings in that dream that you can recall?
When that happened with my car,
That happened with your car? Yeah.
I felt helpless, even though I wasn't, which was kind of bizarre looking back too. So yeah, I felt panicked. I felt kind of helpless. I don't know if embarrassed is the word, but my now ex-boyfriend had been telling me, you need to get a new car. Like, you've put $3,000 into this car. It's only worth about $3,000. You need to do it. And I kept just avoiding it because I don't have a car payment. The car works fine. You get kind of attached. I've had the car like 10 years. You know,
Right.
people all the time are like, that doesn't look like an old, like, that looks like a nice car. I mean, it's fun to drive. Anyway, I just kept kind of avoiding it. And so then when it didn't start, and this may say more about my relationship, but I was like, of course I wanted, this is another reason why it was also upsetting. He was the first person I wanted to call, to kind of talk through it and like get his advice and just kind of help me calm down a little bit. But I knew he was with his kids, which has kind of been a barrier in our relationship. I don't really know the kids. I was with them for 2 years. Wasn't really let in, actually. So that's just too much information. This is being recorded. Anyway, I broke up with him recently. But so all that, just thinking, oh, I can't really call him. And then that hits you like, gosh, I'm with this person that's not always available. So that reality. And then I also was worried he was going to be like, I told you so, like in a joking way, not that he's a bad person or anything. But yeah, just kind of all these like thoughts of even just like embarrassment, I guess, or.
Yeah, when you talk about it, the phrase that keeps coming into my mind is like getting caught.
Yeah.
Sort of that feeling of like that I told you so, like, oh, I should have taken care of this.
Right. Like I was kind of like, here I am dealing with all this, like during this pandemic that's hitting.
Right.
And I could have done this a week or two ago.
Right.
I had just taken it in to get appraised, but then I was kind of researching what I wanted. And yeah, I was like, oh, I should have just done all that before and did it while I was there.
Yeah. A little bit of shame with all the shoulds.
Yeah. Like frustrated and kind of, yeah, I felt, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So panic, a little bit of embarrassed, shame, shooting yourself. There was another feeling that you said. What was it?
Helpless, even
Helpless.
though I wasn't really helpless, but I mean, I was kind of worried, oh my gosh, they're going to shut things down. And what if I have a car that won't start? And
yeah, and it didn't sound like you felt like you had a lot of support either.
yeah, I felt kind of alone at the moment. I think because of the pandemic stuff, like,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had a little bit of space from that, and as you look back on it now, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I feel like I think I was just caught up in everything that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
I think I feel like looking back, I was just overwhelmed with all those different feelings at the time. And the fact that, just like what we're talking about, the pandemic was becoming very real.
Yeah.
And I remember in those few days was when it really was becoming so real. And that was almost more terrifying in a way than what's happening now, even though now it's like really real, right? But yeah, like at that time, it was all just, again, it felt very surreal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I had torn my place apart trying to find that key. So then I had like drawers that had been dumped and emptied on my floor for a few days and just like left it there. I mean, I was like, I've got to clean that up. But I also thought, well, I'll reorganize that drawer when I clean it up. I've got plenty of time and I don't need to do it today.
Right.
That was also kind of strange. That's not like me. I usually put things away and can't really stand messes. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, it was looking back, it all just seems bizarre.
Yeah, it's an interesting paradox that you were sharing, which is that in that moment, in this situation with the car, and we'll call it a dream, in this dream with the car, in that moment, that things seemed both surreal and real to you. Like the situation was surreal, and the impact, the
Yeah,
implication,
the fear was like real.
fear was very real,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And even now, where things are real is such an interesting word, isn't it? Even
Mhm.
now, when things are more real, I don't know,
Mhm.
worse, bigger, um, you don't have that same fear feeling. It sounds like what you're saying is you don't have that same fear feeling that you had
Right.
in that moment with the car, even though things now are more real.
Right. Like even more kind of, it's settled in that this is happening.
Right.
Well, I guess maybe because I'm more at the acceptance phase, perhaps. But yeah, it's interesting.
That is a very interesting paradox. Okay, so
Mhm.
in the Lightning Dreamwork game, what we would ask next is what feels familiar to you in waking life? Since we're already working with waking life, though, we'll change that question slightly and say, of the feelings that you described and this paradox that you described, and even sort of what we were talking about before of being the person who's trying to communicate something to people who aren't listening to you, where has that shown up in your life before this? Have those feelings been in other
With
situations?
like certain people or?
Any situation, work, people, relationships?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with a family member who we've basically figured out as a narcissist.
Hmm. Okay.
So that's
That
a
can
big
be,
piece of
yeah,
me, like trying to stand my ground and or explain myself or feel like I was always defending myself and being criticized.
yeah, a little bit of gaslighting going on there, right?
Yeah. So that's probably rolled over into, relationships. I'm not sure like with work situations. I definitely am someone who is more like the squeaky wheel, like I've worked in places where maybe things aren't really the way, how can I explain this? This is being recorded.
I feel like if I can help you out, maybe I feel
Yeah,
you are the type of person that knows things before other people either A, know them or are willing to talk about them and acknowledge them.
I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Like places where I would kind of bring something up and then other people would say, yeah, you're right. Why have we worked here for 10 years and not asked for a raise, And it's like, yeah, guys, you should be having a review like every year, like, and so that kind of stuff,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where you sort of are like, why is no one else seeing this? Why is no one
Right,
else getting this? Hmm.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, so the next question is, what do you most want to know about? So that would be within dreams, sleeping dreams. That would be our place to start digging, meaning that would be the symbol that we want to start with. So if we wanted to, I want to just make a mental note so I don't forget. So I would love to know, but not right now, if that pattern is a pattern that you'd be interested in changing, of being the first one to know and then not being able to get people to listen. Is that a
Yeah,
pattern that you'd like to change?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right, so let's work with that. And then, you may consider too, like if there are other patterns that showed up as we were talking that you would also maybe want to work with to change. Okay, however, I didn't want to forget that. And I didn't,
Yeah.
I don't usually take notes because then I don't listen as well.
Right. I need to be taking notes.
Okay, so what do you want to know? So let's look at this symbolically, this whole car situation symbolically. Um, in dreams, when we dream about cars, one of the ways that we can see cars is this is the vehicle with which I am moving through my life. This is the way that I'm moving through my life. We can also see cars as our drive our ambition, our, what moves us, what motivates us.
Julie,
In life. Yes.
can I just say that when I was working with you, I remember I had a lot of car dreams
You
at
did?
that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
This was just like a few months ago. Like I was having
I think every dream had a car in it.
every single dream. Like I was at the rental car place twice, I think, at an airport or something. And yeah, weird.
Yeah, I've had, it does just now pop in my mind a dream of trying to like pack or something and get to the airport. And I can't remember if it was an issue with packing or like the transportation, but the whole dream was me gonna like miss my flight and I can't believe it. And just, you wake up like terrified, like you felt like you just went through all of it. I was like, oh, that wasn't real.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to make that connection.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we look at the car too, and the way that the car shows up, so it's interesting, right? That in Ashley's dream, she was dreaming of rental cars. So it wasn't even her vehicle. She was renting a vehicle. So, whose vehicle is it? What's the condition of the vehicle? Your vehicle stopped working right around the time some other stuff in your life stopped working, right?
Right.
Your job stopped working and your relationship stopped working.
Right.
So that's interesting. We could look at, not being able to, because we've all had those types of dreams, right? Not being able to find the thing, and it's a key, which is so cool. I can't find the key.
Yeah.
The thing that I need
to
make this whole thing work,
right.
Yeah. So when you think about the symbols that sort of are showing up in this particular waking life dream, what's the symbol that's the most interesting to you? Is it the key? Is it the car? Is it the car breaking down? Is it the barrier? Like you said, you were breaking the barrier with your mom and that interaction.
I think it was like feeling like, okay, normally this would not be that big of a deal. Like, my mom would come by, I'd grab the key from her, get to hang out with her, not feel nervous about going to the bank to get the title, not feel nervous about going back to CarMax, like would have been all fine. But what I think really hit me was like, I was going to go by and pick it up, but she wanted to get out of the house and just feeling kind of nervous. Like, oh no, should she really be coming by here? And like raining that day. That was probably kind of part of it too. It was like pouring down rain.
Yeah.
And just feeling like this nervousness just to like protect her, but also this weird panicky fear of like, I can't believe I'm even having to feel all this and that I can't really like hug my mom. And yeah.
So when you think about that interaction, and you really let yourself go back to that moment, what sensations in your body do you notice that maybe come up when you think about that?
I mean, I feel it in my chest a little bit, like kind of a heavy chest, or just like a heavy heart.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd say mostly it's kind of what I feel.
Okay. So this situation with your mom where you're not really sure if it's safe to get the key from her and you don't really want her to get out and it creates this really heavy feeling in your chest. Can you kind of tap into the part of you that likes to tell stories, which we all have that story, that inner storyteller, right? And just sort of ask it like, what meaning was I making about that?
Well, I mean, really what just popped in my mind, I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, but it's almost like I was feeling so emotional because, again, it was all becoming so real about the pandemic that I was like, what if I lost my mom?
Gotcha.
Like, just had these weird feelings about like, I want to protect her and, oh my God, what if like I lost my mom? And yeah.
And that brings up some feelings I can see. Yeah. Yeah. And I would imagine that most of us are feeling that at some level.
Right.
You were talking even about the sadness around people losing their jobs. I mean, this is this is huge.
Right,
Um,
right,
and when it comes that close to you with your mom and you start thinking about um,
right,
those very real possibilities, right?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the weight of, yeah, what again, it's like, none of us want to live in fear, but just the weight of what's happening for people. And that is happening, right? People are losing people.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting choice of word, the weight of what's happening. That's that weight in the chest, right?
Yeah,
And I think when we are confronted with that, we do oftentimes feel very helpless. Um, so tell me a little bit about um, the times in your life when you've felt this way, you felt the heaviness in your chest, and you felt helpless, and you felt sort of scared that you might lose someone. Um, when you're acting from that space, which isn't to say that we shouldn't honor the feelings, we should absolutely honor the feelings. I'm a huge like feel it person.
right.
However, when we get when we go down a kind of a spiral with that, or we stay sort of stuck in that place, for you anyway, specifically, what actions do you tend to take or not take when you feel that heaviness and you feel that fear and you're sort of confronted with losing something very precious to you or someone very precious to you?
Well, I've met with counselors before. I mean, sometimes I feel like I want to run first. Like I almost want to leave somebody before they leave me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my mom moved away when we were like, my sister was 15, I was 16. We were living with her, and she had gotten a job in Florida and was dating a man at the time that had moved there. And anyway, looking back, obviously she's like, I I shouldn't have left. Like that was the wrong decision, and I hope you guys forgive me, and blah blah blah. Anyway, this is all like therapy, um but yeah, I've been told like there's some abandonment
Yeah.
issue there per se, like feeling I felt abandoned then.
Yeah.
And so maybe even now at times, maybe trying to kind of run before somebody can leave me, and or just having a hard time, right, with which breakups are never easy, but
Yeah. You had a loss within a huge collective loss.
right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And Ashley, I'd love to hear your experience as well, but it feels like to me anyway, that one of the things that's going on within what's going on, within what's going on, within what's going on, right, is that all of these things that maybe have not quite been dealt with or healed completely, and we're on a healing journey until we leave this earthly plane, right?
right,
So none of us are getting out of it, no matter how much Netflix we watch.
right.
So I feel like one of the things that's happening within this collective dream of this quarantine and COVID is that it really is shining a bright, 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 bright light on these places that want some more attention, that want some more healing. And so, so if abandonment stuff is the stuff that wants attention and wants some healing, that's what's going to come up for you. If it's around not feeling safe, that's what's going to be coming up. If it's around money, that's what's going to be coming up. If it's relationships and conflict within relationships, obviously that's what's going to be coming up. And when we shine a bright light on things, we make shadows bigger. And so obviously Dreamwork is shadow work. It's dealing with the subconscious, and that's what the shadow is. So it makes sense that a lot of people are having a lot of stuff come up from the subconscious, having a lot of
Right.
um,
Pretty fascinating.
yeah. And it'll happen in dream time, which I've definitely been hearing that people have been having crazier dreams, more intense dreams, whether they remember them or not. Some of them are like, I don't remember it, but I know it was really intense.
Yeah.
And I've also been hearing about people who are having a really difficult time sleeping at night. And I think that's probably because there's so much activity. They're, just trying to survive during the waking hours. So that being said, I'd like for us to turn our attention. Oh, I wanted to check in with you, Ashley. Do you find that that's true? That some of the stuff from the subconscious that's sort of bubbling up for you within this quarantine experience, within this COVID experience?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I've been on a very intense subconscious journey for 9, 10, almost a year now. Intense year of healing, and I anticipate it'll keep going for a while. A lot of things bubbling up that I didn't even know were there. So, but one of the things that I noticed about my Corona experience is normally, and yes, I've felt all the different sensations, the anxiety, the fear, the panic, the sadness, the grief, all the stages of grief. Um, but one of the things that I have found that is maybe I've healed a part of this, which I found because is the difference in how I'm responding. The difference in normally I'm like, okay, got to grab my stethoscope and get out on the front line and put myself out there and in danger and save the day and be a hero. Zero. Like, I'm like, nope, I have zero interest in doing that. I'm not putting myself or my family in harm's way. Bless those who do. Thank God they're there, but those aren't my skills anymore. That's not where I thrive. I thrive in building community, and that's just not, so that has been a major, transformation for me. Like even just 2 years ago, Hurricane Harvey that devastated Houston, where I'm from, and like everyone I know lost their house. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people. I was there. I was like knocking on doors and handing out essential oils and like just doing crazy stuff. And I'm glad I did because it was awesome. But this time around, I'm healing for me. Like I'm actually setting that boundary and saying, no, I'm not gonna be a martyr anymore.
That's a whole other Zoom that I would love to have.
Yeah.
Because you said that that's not your skills anymore. That's not your magic anymore. That's not what you love to do anymore. What you love to do is build communities. And so by you stepping back and saying, I'm not going to do what I can do, I'm going to do what I love to do, you created this whole series, which I think has been extremely helpful. And because it's so many different, this collective dream is so many different layers, right? It's definitely people getting sick and things like that, but it's also people losing their jobs. It's also the mental health. It's also the traumas that are coming up. I mean, there's so many different layers and so many different opportunities for healing and for service and for bringing our magic into the world. It's not just one thing. And of course, we Westerners like to just like laser focus on one thing instead of the whole big picture. So I love that you had that realization and that you had that transformation where you could, without any shame or feeling like you have to apologize for it or anything, just be like, nope, that's not mine.
Right. I actually, when this first got started, there's a female physician group called Lady Docs of Austin. And I actually put it out there. I was like, guys, acute care is not, or an ICU care is not my forte. Like I haven't been stepped foot in a hospital in 5+ years, and nor do I want to. How can I support you? And no one really responded, but at least I made it clear, like I would rather support those on the front lines. I would rather be the backup and the let me bring you meals. Let me, I'll do whatever you need. But
that's the beauty of community, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of understanding how the wholeness and how we support each other. Yeah.
But it was also very vulnerable to be like, guys, I suck at this kind of stuff now. Like I'm not up to date with, and I don't want to read up on it. I don't want to learn it again, so huge transformation there. And maybe that's part of, that's what's coming up. Like, it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah. 'Cause the light that's shining on everything doesn't have any kind of an agenda. It's just shining. So it's also shining on the places where we've grown. I was telling Ashley before we started recording this that all of the work that I've put into my business prior to this made for me the transition to working in an online space totally seamless, because I had already put in that work to do that. I had already confronted my money story. I had already, like, I had just finished doing all of that stuff, and then this hit. And so so in addition to some of the subconscious coming up about other things, I was really able to see how much I actually had done the healing work, had healed certain stories, and they just had no charge for me anymore.
Yeah.
How about you, Sarah? Did you find that experience as well, that in addition to some of these feelings that we were talking about, did you also find places where you're like, oh, in the past I would have acted like this or reacted like this, and now I'm doing this?
I mean, maybe with the breakup. I mean, but I've, you know, I've broken up with this person 2 other times. So, but this time I feel like, well, gosh, actually, I don't know how to explain that. There's a part of me that's like the old me. Well, this is not gonna make sense, but the old me would have not done this during a pandemic because everybody needs somebody. But then it's almost like with this actual pandemic, I actually did make the break. Now, again, it's pretty early on, but I really feel empowered. I mean, obviously I'm sad and I'm grieving, but I do feel especially empowered this time around, but maybe it's just because it's the third time and it's just time, but also, yeah, third time's the charm, right? But also I do, I guess, feel like, well,
It feels
in a
different.
weird, yeah, in a weird way with this pandemic, I mean, we're kind of forced to be apart, and I'm also forced to not try and run out and date somebody soon, to like not feel all of my pain, right? Or you tell yourself, oh, it's kind of a distraction, but really I think it's because we're trying to distract ourselves from feeling the pain.
Yeah.
um but yes, in the same breath, I'm just like, what have I done? Like, this is during a time where I mean, I live alone. It's like the one person I could have snuggled up with and watched TV and went and grabbed food or went on a car ride. Instead, I can't hug my friends, and I mean, I've only seen a few people and at a distance outside, and I'm like,
It's
oh
so
my God.
it's super courageous of you to, I mean, because think about how many times we've all, I mean, I know I have, I'm not assuming anybody else has, I'm just guessing, where we've stayed in relationships because we didn't want to be alone, and
Yeah, and it's
good enough.
comfortable.
It's comfortable. They were good
Mhm.
enough.
Love
And
them. I mean, that's what's hard. It's like you love
right.
that person. I just know he's not really who I need to be with. So it's
Yeah.
like so hard to leave that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And to do it at a time where, and that's another thing, how many times have we stayed in any relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or whether it's a business relationship or whether it's a family relationship, where we've stayed or we haven't set boundaries or we haven't spoken up because the time was bad.
Right, right. Right. Like, this isn't the right time.
This isn't the right time. Yeah.
This is bad timing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about the discovery calls that I have with people that are interested in my coaching that end up coming back and saying it's not the right time because they're scared to talk to their spouse about money, for instance. So we have those things, right, about not confronting something that is difficult to confront, and not being with it, not being willing to be with it, to embrace it, and to take that hard leap forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we're looking, or I guess that's what you're saying, like we're looking for excuses.
Oh yeah. I mean, at the end of
I
the
mean,
day,
you basically, you're like, well, I'm not going to do that right now because it's not the right time.
it's
But
not the right.
really,
Yeah.
it's just an excuse to not go through whatever it is, the pain,
The
the fact that
pain,
it's uncomfortable,
the fear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, let's wrap up. I know we're getting close to being at time, but let's wrap up with our game called What If Up. So, one of the things that we can do when we have a nightmare, when we have a bad dream, by the way, there's no such thing as bad dreams. Nightmares are amazing and wonderful tools, and we can have a whole series on that as well. I'm going to save that for Halloween, though. So when we have a nightmare, one of the things that we can do, because we feel very powerless in nightmares, right? Like that's one of the hallmarks of a nightmare is that we end up feeling very powerless. We're getting chased by something, or there's some invisible virus that is infecting everything and we don't know where it is, or someone is leaving us or something like that, right? Or we're trying to pack our bags and we can't get on the airplane. By the way, I had a whole series of airplane dreams and trying to get packed for that. And that's such a cool story.
I need to work with you. I need to send my patients to you.
Absolutely, yeah. This series of dreams, it was amazing what it just was like, oh, but it took probably about 10 dreams before I finally was like, oh, I see what you're trying to tell me. I got it. Okay, all right. And once you get it, once you have that visceral reaction to it, things just start to change and shift. So this is just a little tangent, but in our subconscious, when our conscious mind and our subconscious mind are not aligned, meaning our subconscious mind believes one thing and our conscious mind believes something else, what happens is that the conscious thoughts come in, and because they don't align with the subconscious thoughts, they get booted back out, right? There's a part of us that's like, nope, I don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the way we can get those conscious thoughts into the subconscious so that they come into alignment with each other is either repetition, hello, 10 dreams about packing my bags, or trauma. And what I mean by trauma is something that happens quickly, and it's such a big shock to your system that you don't have you don't have time to reject it. It gets through the filters. And so that's what can happen when you have an aha with dream work like that. It's almost like this sort of trauma. It like gets through the filters and it kind of sinks down into the subconscious so that the conscious mind and the subconscious mind are now aligned with one another. And that's where we start to feel comfortable with what's going on. The discomfort comes when the conscious mind and the subconscious mind are like, no.
Right.
That's a tangent. Anyway, so let's play What If Up. So thinking about the themes that we were talking about with the dream that you shared, and Ashley, with your experience as well of COVID, let's re-enter the dream and let's start to think about what do I want to create? How do I want this dream to end? Does that make sense? So if this were a nightmare, for instance, and the bad guy was chasing me, I would decide to go back into the nightmare at a particular place. Maybe it's at the place where I trip and fall. And I decide that instead of tripping and falling, I'm going to stop running and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to ask the person chasing me, what do you want? So you can think about where you'd like to re-enter this dream.
You're talking about with COVID?
COVID, yeah. So this car dream that you have,
okay.
Would you like to re-enter that dream? Where's a pivot point where you'd love to re-enter that dream?
Where you could, like you're saying, where we think we could change the situation, or
what you want. Yep. Or like, did you ever see the Harry Potter movies?
A long time ago.
I don't remember which one it is, but
I don't know, actually. I wasn't into Harry Potter. I'm probably one of the only people that wasn't.
So there's a scene, I don't remember which one it's in. It's in the books too, so if you read the books, where I think they're called Bogarts, comes out of the closet, and it's representing your biggest fear. And in this Defense Against the Dark Arts class, they learn a spell to turn it into something funny, which is a way to dispel their biggest fear. So I kind of think about it as that spell, like this thing in my dream that's either very scary to me or I feel very powerless. It's a pivot, it's a moment in time where I can begin to create either something that's very pleasurable to me or something that's hilarious to me or something that feels very empowering to me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I just think back and think I wish I could have been more calm or just felt more supported, because really I did have the support, my mom was so sweet and was like, I'll come bring it. I want to get out of the house. I tried to tell her, come get it. I did call the boyfriend, and of course he eventually said, I told you so. But he talked me off a ledge, even though it wasn't even really a ledge. When I look back, it just seems kind of silly, but I was so panicked because of everything else happening.
Right. Right.
And so I just wish I could have remained calm and actually seen all the support that I actually had.
Yeah.
And had already felt it before I kind of went into this tailspin. But again, I think the tailspin was also because of everything externally that was happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you remember like one moment where you really felt that wall of panic hit you? Like one pivot moment where if you had just had a fairy godmother to stand there and remind you of what a powerful freaking magician you are, it changed your whole experience.
Yeah. I can think it when I got in the car and it wouldn't start. I was just
Okay.
like, that's when I
Perfect.
really got panicked. It's just
Perfect. Okay. So we're
Yeah.
re-entering the dream where you got in the car and it wouldn't start. Okay. So Ashley, I'm going to ask you to play along with us as well. So we're all sort of in the car with her. We're going to be her magic, her fairy godmothers. We're going to be
All right. I got co-pilots.
team. We're going to be we're going to be guides, angels, whatever. And you can play along too, Sarah. So the game is called What If Up. And so we spend a lot of our lives kind of thinking about, what if my mom dies?
Yeah.
Right? What if I lose my job and I don't have any money to pay my rent? What if the economy crashes and we're in a depression, another Great Depression for the next 10 years?
I'll be alone forever.
If I'll be alone forever, right? Like, we're pretty good at what if down, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
With that.
Yeah.
We're going to play what if up. So what if, what if your car had started? So that's where we can go. However, I really encourage you to be as magical and imaginative and bold and like the sky's the limit, because it's a dream. We're in a dream, right? We can fly. What if your car started and it could fly?
Right. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. What would you have done if your car could fly?
I would have flown it right to CarMax and traded in. Right
No need for an airport if you did.
Right.
Why?
You
Then
could all your bags.
Then my airport dreams would stop.
So do you understand the game? Do you kind of get what we're doing here?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, cool. All right. So anybody got a what if up? We're at the moment where the car won't start.
What if someone just pulled up with a brand new car and they gave it to me and I won it?
You are so good at this
I
game.
want a new car with big red button on it, and they're like, just take this, it's free.
And what if they were like, I will absolutely tow this car as well. You don't even have to worry about that.
I'll take this car. Yep.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? What if?
This was more, this is kind of funny. What if my boyfriend showed up with his 3 kids and helped me out and didn't care about the fact that he was with his kids?
There you go. Yeah. What's beautiful about that what if up is that I can really hear that the life that you want to create means that you want to be with a partner who is all in, who who is willing to share his life completely with you.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose of us doing these sorts of things, is like, I want to invite magic into my life. I want to invite what it is that I want to create into my life. So yeah, what if your partner showed up and with all of his kids and was like, yeah, I'll help you. Let's go do this. Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
Or bought the car for you. And
bought the car.
Yeah, right.
Not that we want to, be codependent.
Right, right.
But a gift is nice.
A gift is always nice. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, free car. That'd be awesome. Either way, win it. Somebody buy it for you.
Yeah. I was playing with a friend of mine who I've been talking to about the next workshop that I want to create, and creating this persona which is not really a persona, but a little bit more of a persona around the things that I'm actually really terrified that people will find out about me, which, you know, that's sort of the fears that we deal with when we're on the online space, and like, I can't be seen, you know, all that stuff. And it occurred to me, I was like, you know what? I am a lazy witch. I am lazy, and I want to be lazy. I don't want to work hard. I want people to give me stuff. I want to do the least amount of work possible. I like to work. I like to do things. However, I'm not a high performer. I don't want to be a high performer. I'm not interested in that. So I love these ideas of like, yeah, what if I just got a car? What if someone just gave me a car?
Yeah.
That feels very expansive to me, and it feels like I'm being supported by the universe, which is ultimately what I want to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We want to
Yeah.
feel like everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So what
Have
if
that
everything's going to
comfort.
be okay?
And Julie, I'm right there with you.
Right. I think there are a lot of people.
But that's a new thing for me. I used to think I had to suffer and work hard. And
Yeah, right. I am a reformed hard worker. I used to make everything so hard. Everything, relationships had to be hard, and jobs had to be hard, and writing had to be hard. It all had to be so hard for it to be worth it, so I could earn it. Right. Screw that. I'm not doing that anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So what if everything ended up okay? What if, you know, the breakdown was fairly easy? I mean, I think that's one of the things that a lot of us are fearing, is like this breakdown of systems, which that's going to happen.
Right.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, and it's going to be painful, and so many people are going to be hurt. What if that's not the case? What if it happens easily? What if that transition happens easily?
Right. Or I think the way I've been kind of processing it last couple of days, and yeah, I'm sure like all of us, every day is different. You know, one day I'm okay, and the next day I'm like, oh my God. But just like, I mean, again, accepting that the repercussions are going to be, you know, not good. And even like mental health, I just watched 60 Minutes, and one of their pieces was about the second pandemic is going to be the mental health of our people in our community. And obviously we already kind of know that, right? As health practitioners and coaches and counselors, I mean, we already know. So it's not like it's news, but to kind of hear it on this like new show was just even more sobering. But in the same way, I kind of just felt in a weird way the last couple of days, I'm like, this is all going to be really hard. And I mean, I hate to use the word bad, but I mean, you know, it's not going to be good, but we're going to be okay.
And what if it's not hard? And what if it's not bad?
Right. But how do you get to that point?
Well,
I'm not there.
the how is not our job. That's the beautiful thing, is that the how is not our job. The how is the universe's job. That's the how. And the how comes through as we are called to step up and offer our services, step up and offer a series like this, like the coronavirus series, where we are, you know, we can't physically be in contact with each other, and so we're looking for ways to be intimate with one another in ways that we haven't really done before.
Right.
We've been too busy to do before. I was talking to a client of mine, and she said, you know, I've been wanting to, they produce movies, and she's like, we've been wanting to get this script written, but all of the people that we wanted to work on it were so busy that they couldn't work on it. Well, now they're like, yeah, send it over. Come on. You know, there's amazing things coming out of this. I have a friend from college who is in the theater scene in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and he created a group called Quarantine Cabaret. And in 3 days, it had 4,000 people in it. There's over 35,000 people in it now. And it's everybody it's all these performers and wannabe performers and people who like watching performers performing in their living room. So you can, like, the dude who was playing the Hunchback of Notre Dame on Broadway is singing in his living room, and you can watch him sing. And then, you know, Mikey is his name that started this. He's started this, I don't know what official platform he's using, but he's collecting money for these performers that are out of work. So there's so many things that are beautiful that are coming out of this. And so
Right.
what happens when we focus on that and we stop telling the story that it's going to be hard and it's going to be bad? And not that I am advocating sticking our head in the sand. However, I'm just asking the question, what if it's not hard? What if it's not bad?
Right.
What if it is amazing and beautiful and wonderful and magical?
And I do agree. I guess that I should say that is how I've been thinking about it too in some ways, is seeing some of the good that's coming out of it, just like what you're describing, for sure. Like
Yeah.
I think obviously, yeah, we, at least amongst like my family and friends, well, I guess all of us, right? We all know, or maybe we're those people. I don't know. I've always tried to create a life for myself where I'm not working too hard, and I have free time and I don't feel super stressed. And but yeah, other people, they're like, no, this is just the way I have to live my life. Like we're busy and we're nonstop and there's no other option. And I'm like, but there is.
And
And so
that,
now people
yeah,
are being forced to be like, oh, this actually works. Okay. Like it's not the end of the world to be at home with my kids and my family and like having to cook dinner and just slow down and just like, be
yeah,
bored.
be bored. Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've loved that part of it, and seeing all the families together outside, which I
Yeah.
hadn't seen really ever. Like, no one was ever outside. Everyone was at activities or whatever. Now they're on 3, 4, 5-person bike rides
Right.
every night. And I love it. I think a lot of good is going to come out of it, and people are going to make those realizations. Um, and I'm going to go with, and there are people who are going to have to rethink their careers and their lifestyles and their everything. So, the sky's the limit. Thank God we have the internet. If we didn't have the internet,
Right.
I don't know what any of us would be doing. But, I think ultimately it's going to be a positive, and it's going to be a turning point. We're going to look back in history and say, hey, do you remember where were you when?
Where were you? Yeah.
Remember life before coronavirus? That's what
We've had at least 2 big ones in our lifetime, right? We had 9/11 and now we've got this. So, I really encourage you, just as we continue to go through this, to use this. I call it a magic spell because it kind of snaps us out of the spell that's being cast. This what if question, what if up, right? So yeah, we watch the news and and just catching the thoughts, right? It's going to be hard. It's going to be bad. It's going to be devastating. Just catching those thoughts and asking, what if that's not true? What if it's easy? What if it, because what we have seen is, and I love the way you phrase that, Ashley, is there are going to be people that are going to have to rethink some things.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be hard, because it really comes down to perception, right? So even though I say I don't want to work hard, it's really my perception of what working hard is. Some people, working hard is, working 120 hours a week. Some people, working hard is working 20 hours a week. It's really about perception. Sometimes if I were waiting tables for 1 hour, that would be too hard. I don't want to do that because I hate waiting tables. If I'm leading a retreat that's a week long, that's not working hard to me, even though that's hard work. It's a lot of work. That's hard for somebody else. Yeah, emotional. So it really is, it is like going to be hard for anyone that is really, really attached to the way that things were. Right. And also maybe it won't be for them. Maybe they'll come to one of these coronavirus series and they'll get some kind of bit of information, or they'll find a practitioner that they really connect with, and it won't be hard for them because they reach out and they get support and they have an awareness that they weren't able to have before, when they were so busy living their lives and going from thing to thing and numbing out with Netflix and whatever else they numb out with.
Well, and do you think, I would think some people, just their personalities are more, might thrive off of change. And then other people just, they can't handle it. And I mean, I've always been someone who I feel like I kind of thrive off of change. And so maybe again, I mean, again, we're all struggling in our own way, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm just like, well, and I still have a job. I mean, honestly, thank God. But I'm just kind of like, it's going to be okay. Like, it's scary and it's going to be okay. But then I think there's other people that just can't even handle, they don't like any kind of change. And so
And
they're
a lot
just
of that is really like where your nervous system is, right? And does your
yeah,
nervous system still hold a lot of trauma? Have you done work to recalibrate your nervous system? Of course, then we get into also like just personality types, right? Like
yeah.
even just, I mean, I follow astrology, but like
Yeah.
I'm a Gemini sun and a Sagittarius rising, so I'm all about change. Bring it. Let's go.
Yeah,
I got no problem with change.
right,
But people who are, Capricorns and Cancers, not so much.
right.
um, so, and also, we are always evolving and always growing, whether we want to or not.
Right.
And so even the Capricorns and Cancers, maybe they've done some work around being a little bit more comfortable with change, because life changes. We grow up, we age. I mean, we're not getting out of this without changing to some degree.
Only constant is change.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
At the end. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I keep telling myself.
What's interesting about that phrase, right, is like everything will be okay in the end. Well, the end is death.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's like, yeah, that's true. That's true.
So
Well, I have a little 8 o'clock yoga class that I might start
yeah.
on
Yeah.
Zoom, which is hilarious. That I mean, it's the first night that I'm like, I'm doing 2 Zoom meetings for things that I never do.
Well, thank you for
Well,
coming.
thank you, Julie. This was awesome. You're
Yes,
always a
thank you
wealth
so
of
much.
wisdom and encouragement and optimism. So
I
thank
love
you.
it. That was
And
wonderful. I'll have
where
to,
can people find you?
So I have a Facebook group called The Wild Feminine and Her Big Juicy Dreams, and you don't have to be a woman to be in the Facebook group. We've got a handful of men who are brave enough to join us in there. We really are looking at lots of energy work within the feminine, so Dreamwork is definitely a key component there, as is sitting with questions like what if up, or what if that's not true, universal law questions. So that's the easiest way to find me. You can definitely go to my website, julie@juliebalderrama.com, and you can check out the stuff that's on there too. Being the lazy witch that I am, I don't keep that as up to date as I do the stuff on social media. So I spend more of my attention and my work over there on Facebook. And of course, I have a business page as well. It's Julie Balderrama. So you can find me on that business page as well.
Great.
great.
Yeah.
And
And
also, are you on our austinwellnesscollaborative.org/directory?
am I?
If you sent in a profile, like a
I think I may have been asked several times to do.
oh, well, now
I haven't gotten to that yet, but I will get on that.
please do that. So then they can just go to austinwellnesscollaborative.org/directory and find you.
I will get on that for sure.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I really honor
appreciate
you
it.
for sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah, for sharing
Oh,
so
sure.
much.
Thanks. It was therapeutic. You're great at what you do. That was great.
Hearing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
All right. You ladies have a great night.
All right. Everybody stay well.
You too.
All
Take
right. Thanks,
care.
guys.
All
Bye.
right.
Bye.